I love to take risks. I like to jump into places that people otherwise look and say, oh, this belongs to this group or that group, or you don't belong. Say, why? I mean, if those people are in there, were they invited? No, they weren't invited. They went in there and they stood and I've never been one to follow the system as is. I mean, yes, the system's there. I respect the system, but I like to shake things up a little bit.
From Coordinate Sports, it's The Drive Phase, a show about sports founders, leaders, and experts, and the stories behind their business journeys. Our guest on this episode is Cynthia Mumbo, founder and CEO of Sports Connect Africa. Cynthia's passion for marketing and sport drove her to launch Sports Connect Africa with the mission to support the commercialization of sport across the continent. During this episode, she shares her journey and outlines the potential for the sports industry in Africa. We cover life as a female executive in sport and her vision for Sports Connect Africa being the destination for organizations wanting to enter the market. Enjoy the show. So I'm pleased to welcome Cynthia Mumbo, the founder and CEO of Sports Connect Africa. Sports Connect Africa provide consultancy, development, marketing services, and focused on the commercialization of sport across the continent. Welcome to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you. Very nice to meet you, James.
Yeah, you too. We battled the kind of time differences and the technical issues, and we're here. So really excited to get into the show and hear your story. Where we generally start is just to get to know you a little bit better and look at your early life and your early experiences in sport. Could you remember your first sporting memory?
Yes, very well.
Clear.
I've been very, very, very privileged. I think I jumped into sports when I was still very young, probably about 5-6 years old. And my neighbors used to make us run when we were kids. And I was very privileged to live with a gentleman who recently passed away. He's been my mentor, one of my closest friends, one of the people I've always looked up to in the world of sport, Benjamin Ayimba. And Benjamin is a great sportsman, great leader. He was the first Kenyan to, bring the seventh trophy home. So you can imagine, but I got to experience him when I was 5 or 6. And, we were at his funeral. Everyone was talking about how influential Benjamin is. And I was looking at them like, yeah, I know. I connected with this guy when I was a kid, and he would make us run. And I would win, and he would give me his medals, or he would reward me with sweets. And he wasn't that much older than me. I mean, he was like 5-6 years older. But I felt so connected to the way he did his thing. And he went on to do great stuff. And I've always wanted to, emulate him. And I always used to call him and tell him, dude, you do this, I'm going to do greater. That started right when I was young. I was born in what they consider the biggest slum area in Kenya. And we were privileged. I don't want to say that I was right in the center of it, but I grew around, that environment. A lot of my friends came from that environment, and we didn't have much. What we had was sports. So your free time, you were either running around, playing, racing or playing football. And it was always a competitive environment. So that really caught on for me.
So in terms of the playing environment, it's just all informal sport at an early age, boys, girls, everyone joining together.
Yeah, 100% informal. But Benjamin was always in a competitive environment. He was either playing for a rugby club somewhere, or he was racing somewhere. Or even when he was in primary school, he would win his medals, and he'd come and show us what he won. And I was like, I want like that, And I was a little kid, but I remember that every time he came with a medal, I wanted a medal like his. And that really, that for me practically was the reason why I'm where I am today. I can really picture myself thinking that I want to be like these guys.
So you're having that vision at an early age to...
And I was pretty good. I used to win all the races. So I imagined, okay, this is where I belong.
Yeah, you definitely enjoy it if you're winning, for sure. In terms of your family life, then, so you from a large family, and were they all sporty, parents, siblings?
My mom's amazing. My mom was always very sporty. She used to run around after us. And I lost my dad. It's been a really tough year. I lost my dad in February. And my dad loved sport. Yeah, he loved football. And he always encouraged me because I'm a black sheep. Everyone loves sports in my family, but I really just took it on seriously. I have 4 brothers, and I'm the only girl, firstborn. But my third-born brother is possibly the most talented human being I know, and it bothered me. So one of the reasons why I got into what I'm doing is because, I mean, he was danking at 34, but he didn't take that with him anywhere. So you can imagine what he was like at 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
Extremely athletic, extremely good at everything he put in, but it didn't amount to anything. It bothered me. And I have a son who is 6'2" at 13. I'm like, you know what? You're not missing out on what sports has to offer. So, our family, yes, very passionate. We follow English sport like it's crazy. Everyone has their team. And really, whenever we sit down, we're constantly talking about some sport here or there, the NBA or the English Premier League. We were very together watching the Euros the other day.
In terms of how school life and how that kind of impacted on you, obviously you've got the influence from Benjamin in the community, but in terms of school, were the opportunities there, I guess, for girls at that time, or is that something you kind of paved the way?
About Kenya, I think we're all known a sporting nation. I think the first thing you think about when you see Kenya is you see the long distance runners and you see the animals. Those are the two things you see. You see the safaris and you see the long distance runners. So yes, I came from. I lived in Nairobi, which is predominantly urban, so we didn't have much of an issue with laying until you decided to get serious with it. Then my parents were like, sports not going to take you anywhere. I mean, you need to get serious with your life. What's sports? What's nothing, because genuinely there isn't, unless you're lucky, there isn't anything around a commercial sports environment in Kenya and in Africa. In high school, I did play. I was in the sprint team. I was in the hockey team for 2 days. I quit. I could not deal with hockey. I saw the injuries and I said, you know what? No, not me. And I remember going into the basketball court one time. At that time, we were watching a lot of NBA action on Sundays at 4 p.m. I remember. And I said, you know what? Let me try basketball because we're looking at Jordan all the time. And, there was the Hadaway's and, that whole
the dream team. Yeah, Olympics.
Absolutely. Yeah. I picked the basketball, threw it, because I didn't shoot. Whatever that wasn't a shot. And I threw it and the ball went in and I said, okay, I'm home. This is it. And after that, the coach wanted to kick me out. I was always because it's like, first formers you don't get into the court until the third term, or you don't get into the court until I said, and I'm like, but I'm interested. Just allow me to train. I don't have to play with the team. And before you know it, I was captain of the team. So I'm very resilient. I'm very aggressive. When I want something within the sports space, I'm going to get in there and grab it. So that's where I started. And then I got a scholarship to go to a university after I cleared USIU. But I didn't finish that because the course I took was not necessarily what I thought I should have been taking. So I dropped out of uni. Not the nicest to tell any young people listening to me, but actually the best lesson of my life. Because I did eventually go back to school, but I got a scholarship to play basketball, and my speed was exceptional, my defensive skills were exceptional, and that really took me to where I am today.
So the scholarship there, was that to the US or whereabouts was the?
No, it was local. It was local.
Brilliant.
Yeah, the university itself is United States International University. So it was a US university that had a base here. It was an amazing experience, but really from the education side, that's not what I wanted to do. So I decided to move on from that.
Yeah, but that's a bit of a theme in terms of the guests we've had on. I know making that decision, if it's not for you at the time, you could follow it and just go down the wrong path and not be enjoying yourself.
That sounds good now. You should have seen my parents then.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds okay now. When my mom looks at me and my dad would look at me, the conversation was, are you not? My dad got it. He's an entrepreneur. He's very entrepreneurial. And my mom she couldn't understand. How are you out of school? But my dad always supported me with my decisions. I'm the only girl, so I get away with a lot. I used to get away with a lot with him.
So in terms of, I really want to get into the origin of Sports Connect, but kind of that early career, moving from college to university to obviously basketball is a massive theme running through that. But you're a marketing professional, right? You'd class that as your profession. So what was that kind of transition like?
Mm-hmm. When I moved from USI, I went to Kenyatta University and I did a diploma in business management, and then I went to the Chartered Institute of Marketing and I did my program in marketing, which I interestingly, was the best student in the region. So I realized, so this is what I'm good at.
You're taking that
Marketing
competitive instincts into university.
right.
Yeah.
But also being able to convince human beings. I really find that fascinating, just coming up with new concepts and fulfilling this needs situation. I found that really fascinating. So I got into an internship at Firestone. They sell tires. I think it's a global company. Yeah. So I got in as an intern, and I remember my first 3-4 months were very interesting because I wasn't being paid. Actually, almost a year I wasn't paid. I was an intern, but I was like, you know what? I mean, it's not every day you get an opportunity like this, sit here and learn. And I'm very entrepreneurial. So in between there somewhere, we started a basketball team with my friend Stella. She's the one that got me the internship. So she was head of sales at the time for a region. And she's like, you know what? You come in as an intern, you never know. But what I did that got me the job was I started selling chapatis. Because there were like 1,000, there were like 1,000 guys in the factory, and I used to see them go buy chapatis in the street. And I was like, you know what, I could make chapatis and sell. If I could make 100 and sell 100 in the morning, I could make, pocket change.
Yeah.
My dad used to call me Mama Chapati, so.
So you got that captive audience, then you bring them in, and everyone's captive audience.
I saw there was a need. Before you know it, the guys in the administration were buying chapatis for me to keep. So I was like, okay, I've seen a need. And I was making like what, $50 a day, which wasn't bad at that time. It was really good. So at some point, the head of marketing looked at me and said, Cynthia, why don't you join us, in the sales team? Because clearly you have something. And we pushed on. We started a team with Stella, and we had that team for 4 years. So I was there 5 years. Once I got into the team environment, I've been in basketball since high school. I was always in a team. So if I wasn't in a team at USIU, from USIU, I moved to KU, from KU to a team called NSSF, which is like the social security company here. And from NSSF, I moved to a team that was run by Coca-Cola at the time, Sprite Storm. So I was always in a team. So when I moved to this company, I was like, okay, if I'm not going to be playing for this team, why not start something? And HR and the marketing team were very happy because we're in the papers every week.
Was that a team kind of supported by Firestone, or was it just all Firestone employees on the team as well, or was it just kind of that was there?
A couple of Firestone employees, but it was a team supported 100% by Firestone. So
right, so it's a decent level then. Obviously, they're coming into the.
Oh yeah, we got our best performance. We were third in the National League, so not bad at all. Okay, and we were
from just founded
every week.
So it's what, 3-year-old team, and you.
By the third year, we were in the medal bracket, so not bad for. Yep,
not bad at all.
That really got me into my basketball story, and my marketing and sales story cannot be separated because at any given time I was working, so I had a full-time job, and I was in a basketball team. So they run in tandem. At some point, I joined the federation, but this is because I hated when I really detest complaints. Like everyone's like, oh, basketball's not moving. Oh, we're not having this. I'm like, okay, I have this marketing background. What I see is we have a product and it's not being sold and it's not, there's no structure around it. So this is what we should do. And I wrote to this mail trail that we had. We didn't have Facebook at the time, so no one was complaining on Facebook groups. We had this mail trail with like 200 people. And I wrote there and I said, ever since I joined basketball, it's been 4 years, and all I see is there's a problem with this guy, there's a problem with that, why not do this? 2 days later, I get a call from the federation. The Secretary General says, Cynthia, would you like to join the executive committee of the Kenya Basketball Federation as a member? I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. Yeah, why not? And I got in there running the team. And at some point I had to leave because I got my son in 2007, but I was still a member of the federation. In 2009, I moved to East African Breweries Limited, which is owned by Diageo. So my story is very intertwined. So I'm in the federation now, and I'm working for Diageo, which was possibly my best selling experience because I was taken down to got to really have an understanding of the real African consumer, not these urban guys who are very westernized in their way of thinking, very African, just being able to experience that really opened up my mind to the opportunity around Africa and how, the everyday African thinks.
So that's helping you in terms of positioning to directly address the market and what they're looking for.
And that was very valuable for me because, even when I speak with different clients for our company today, I have an understanding of the African consumer. I have an understanding of the urban African consumer. I have an understanding of the rural African consumer. And about 70% of Africa is rural, maybe 80% of Africa is rural. So you really need to get to have an understanding that, like every other consumer, they have different ways of doing things, and different markets have different, characteristics. But being in that environment at that time really opened up my mind to say, okay, so this is what this looks like. And, these are the opportunities around it. While I was at the brewery in 2012, I registered the company Sports Connect Africa. So that's how that kind of got into all of that. Yeah.
We talked about opportunity. Obviously, it's clear in terms of your marketing skills and your experience in sport. Is it just as simple as that? Like you're seeing marketing and what you can do with it and how you can sell a product, and then you're seeing a product that's underserved and not utilizing the opportunities.
Marketing is as simple as that. I find marketing very simple. The thing about execution is what is not so simple. But being able to understand that this is the product and this is the consumer and this is what they need and this is what we can deliver. The in-between is usually the challenge, because you require resources and investment, and you require education. And especially in Africa, we require education, because everybody thinks our basketball or football or athletics to look like what it looks like in the rest of the world or in the Western world. But we've not invested in the grassroots. We've not invested in infrastructure. We've not invested in, the media element. We've not invested in people. So you can't have all of this if you don't have the right people. And education is really important to bring that to life.
So that's the genesis of the idea of Sports Connect. So at that time, did you flesh out a full business plan and know this is exactly what we're going to do? I'm registering the company and here's the mission, vision, about all that type of stuff, or what was it?
And then I learned the hard way that entrepreneurship is not what's on the paper. I mean, there's a lot of slang along the way. So, and a lot of learning. What I picked out of my whole experience is just jump in. You know what? Jump in. Nobody is 100% right. Nobody's 100% wrong. You get in there. This is your vision. This is what you want to do. I bootstrapped I'm still bootstrapping. I try as much as possible not to try and borrow money or to try and get resources from outside until, we're comfortable enough to say, this is where the business is, this is where we want to move it. It's been an amazing journey, because ultimately, when I look at how far we've come and, the opportunities of being able to create for basketballers, but also for companies that are out there looking at Africa, and local companies who are trying to commercialize their systems. So it's still not the easiest of environments to work in, but very fulfilling when when we get to do one or two things and people say, oh, we really like what you did there.
In terms of just, I guess, to give a bit of an overview of the services, etc., the business, if you're able to kind of lay those out for us, obviously I know the consultancy, etc., how does that stack up? And I guess what should your average customer or average project that you'd be working on?
COVID has taught us heavy lessons. We're not on the court or on the pitch like we would like to. So, we started off with a basketball academy, and I dropped that off completely. So we're still affiliated with the basketball academy, but we don't own it anymore. So the coach, Zeddy, and the administrator who started with us, Grace, they picked it up and, are doing a great job with that. And, I decided that we need to focus on the commercialization of sports. So bringing out the best out of sports clubs in Africa. So helping them with strategy. And it's still very difficult, because sometimes you reach out and, people don't keep time for meetings. People don't understand what, they need to invest. It's not necessarily the easiest environment to work in. We've pitched to a couple of sports clubs on helping them restructure, which is pretty exciting. We're hoping that we can get one or two okays in the next month or two.
Because the appetite's there, right? You've got a huge appetite for sport and consuming.
1.2 billion
international.
Africans.
Yeah, exactly. and consuming international leagues like EPL, NBA. So really, if you can harness that in the local level, right?
From a local perspective, we're looking at supporting local clubs to really build their commercial acumen. And from the international aspect, we're talking to international clubs and federations. One, on research, so getting them to understand the African consumer, the African market, and opportunities there, and being able to activate those opportunities once they arise. And two, we're looking at connecting them with potential partners. So that's really an exciting bit as well. So we've been working with a couple of clubs, and the turnover is not short. So you have to build relationships, and build relationships. Some of these relationships can take we've been working with Olympic Lyon for 4 years, and we're now seeing a turnaround for the relationship we've had with them. We managed junior NBA for the NBA Africa for 2 seasons, but it took 2.5 years for that to be able to turn over into some work.
I was actually going to ask you about your main challenges or things, perceptions, things like that. That one must be, I guess, like you're saying, like the lead time into doing a deal and completing a deal. It's got to be a challenge for cash flow, everything. You putting all that effort into getting building the relationships. Where do you think that comes from? Is that more just kind of from their side or from your side? Or is that just how it is at the moment?
It's the business environment. It's the business environment. So sports culturally has not been considered a business here in the continent. So yes, you have football teams, but do they have the right structures to be able to commercialize? And not just the team, how are the FAs running? We're starting to see a difference now. We're seeing broadcasters getting into broadcasting football matches and football leagues in Africa. I mean, they've been there a while, but that has not translated to commercial conversations for the teams, commercial value for the teams. And that's usually the challenge, because the teams are run by owners who are very tight on, I own this. They don't realize that there's so much opportunity by saying, okay, I own this, but I need a marketer to run A, B, C, D, and I need a CEO to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I did this and I need that, and this is the vision, and this is where we want to go. That has been the challenge. So we've spent a lot of time educating because we understand that, relationships are built that way. When you get in someone, okay, this is where you need to go, they trust you. And so we've invested a lot of time in the education aspect.
Planted a lot of seeds, so they should all be.
It's been 10 years of planting, and I'm so okay with it. Just from the relationship, but it's been 10 years. We set up in 2012. I didn't get serious until 2016. So it's been hard work, but I've always been of the notion that nothing good comes easy. So it's part of the process. I mean, if you're going to win a championship, you're not going to win it overnight. I got to learn that working and playing sports. So I'm very patient about, the process and where we're going.
Yeah, that's what they say. Everyone says it's a 20-year overnight success.
Yep. One day everyone's like, you're doing anything. Like, yeah.
Yeah, where have you been for the last 15 years? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so in terms of those perceptions as well, I really want to talk about kind of leadership, executive leadership, female executive leadership. So is that in your role at the moment? Have you come up against any challenges as a female in sports business?
Oh, I did something crazy in January. I decided to run for president of the Basketball Federation. That was nuts. I realized that I was the first African woman to do that. Yep.
So, do you know when you joined the federation as well at that time? What was the kind of the makeup at that point in terms of male and female? When you were invited on, was it quite?
I was the only one, I think.
Only woman at that time as well.
We were two, but I was the only one the other lady wasn't active. We're two of us, yeah.
So how did that election process go then back in January?
Lord have mercy. They're tapes.
I saw just in the research, obviously, I watched a couple of interviews of yours after the fact. So yeah, I got to see you very diplomatic afterwards. So.
Well, again, it's all about relationships, but also what do you stand to gain by, going out and fighting and, being all crazy? I understand why I'm in the industry. I understand that I am an influencer. I don't want to say necessarily a role model. I could be a role model. I believe that there are young people, not just women, but there are young people who look up to me. And how I reacted to that, I understand that, it had a positive impact, not a negative impact. And ultimately, the guy that won. So, how do you go about that? You gracefully let go of it. You get down on the ground, you work, and then you come and beat them the next time. Yeah, but it was not the nicest experience, I have to say. It was amazing in the sense that I did really well. In 7 days, I managed to lose by only 12 votes, 9 being incumbent votes. So they had a +9. So I lost by 3 votes, really, in 7 days, losing to a guy who's been in office for 20 years. I mean, guys can say anything that they want to say. I think that, if I had a month, maybe I'd have won it. If I'd really put in my effort.
That profile for yourself and what you did, and obviously Sport Connect, everything about that as well.
That was huge. I can tell you in the last at least month or two, I've gotten some interesting conversations going. So look out for some exciting stuff coming. But I love to take risks. I like to jump into places that people otherwise look and say, oh, this belongs to this group or that group, or you don't belong. Say, why? I mean, if those people are in there, were they invited? No, they weren't invited. They went in there and they stood and I've never been one to follow the system as is. I mean, yes, the system's there. I respect the system, but I like to shake things up a little bit.
Disruptor.
Yeah, always been. As a marketer, you cannot work with the system as is. You have to innovate or die, and that's just simple.
Continuing the theme on challenges, what's your recurring challenges if you've got like day-to-day business-wise for those guys out there running businesses, leading, trying to start something, obviously like yourself from scratch?
I've got two: money and people. So being able to attract the right people when you don't have money is a difficult thing. So I've had to train. I had to train people over and over.
Probably the right ones when you do have money as well, I guess, making sure they're joining for the right reasons as well. Yeah.
So people for me are they're a big challenge, but I've come to understand that I could be a transitioner. So being able to empower others who come to us and let them grow. Ultimately, my hope is that what we've been able to do over the last couple of years has a great impact, not just for us in the business, but for the greater continent. I believe. I mean, I'm sitting here on an interview, with you in the UK. That says that we are doing something. And despite our challenges, when we get our voice out there, when we get our story out there, then it does bring people back to us. And they say, okay, so these are your challenges. How can we be a part of, the solution?
Just in terms of the reach as well, Sports Connect Africa based in Kenya, are you working across the majority of territories or is it more localized how in terms of your projects?
The Zoom world, now we have relationships everywhere. I mean, yes, I had connections everywhere, but currently we just signed up with a company in India. They offer an app that's it's a software for managing academies, and it's been accepted really well here. So we've just registered, I think, our 5th customer in Kenya, and my hope is that we can be able to push that through the solution through to the rest of Africa, because we have tons of academies. But the way they are run is, I mean, you have an Excel sheet for everything. So we're trying to, make their business easier. And, being in a digital world, that has made our lives much, much easier. So I have meetings with them every Tuesday morning, but they're in India. They're in Pune in India. I'm in Kenya, and I'm selling to, somebody in Nigeria, and we're able to have those conversations. Technology has made Africa flat. Kenya is considered the Silicon Savannah. So in terms of digital solutions, we're well ahead of most of Africa. So it's really been an interesting space to just pick up the new things that we can pick up and move across the continent.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of over the time of leading this business and in your previous career, have you developed any leadership philosophies, business or leadership philosophies that you approach leading the organization with?
Yeah, I lead from the front. I lead from the front. I take the hit when things are wrong. They're wrong with me first. They're not wrong with the team. So
yeah,
I take responsibility for what the business is. And I also believe in learning. So I don't know everything. I used to be the kind of boss who was like, guys, we need to do now. I was all over until one time we had a consultant, my very, very close friend, Harry. He told me, Cynthia, why don't you trust the team? And I sat back, I said, okay, so this is what I used to hate when I was working in the different industries. I used to hate being told what to do. So I'm doing the same thing. I just need to take a step back. So I've learned that as well, that I don't know everything, and I need to trust my team to be able to deliver whenever we have any project.
I'm really curious in terms of if you were going to look ahead 5-10 years for Sports Connect, what would be your vision for that period of time? What would you like to achieve by then?
We would be one of the top solution providers in Africa, for digital solutions, digital sports solutions, and consultancy. So we realize that there's a very big opportunity around providing, strategic solutions, but also being the hub for sports business in Africa, where we are able, if ever you need to connect with anyone from Africa and you're from out there or you're within, then we want to be the space that if you need anybody, we're able to provide that platform to connect with anyone.
Yeah, definitely. So the first ones to call.
And it happens so often, but yes, the first ones to call. And we're very strategic. I'm a marketer through and through. So I constantly thought, what are we? Sports Connect Africa. We're about sports, we're about connections, we're about Africa. And really, that's who we are, Sports Connecting Africa, and, connecting Africa to the world and the world to Africa. And we're about connecting, inspiring, and empowering, our stakeholders, whether you're from out there or from the continent. So that for me it's a vision that we've had from the word go. And my hope is that, whether I'm within the company or not, that will always transpire.
So personally then, do you have any routines or strategies? Obviously, basketball, sports is a huge part of your life, but do you have any routines or daily habits that you do every day to keep yourself at kind of performing at a high level?
I love yoga.
Not the only one. Loads of people say that.
After I got my injury, I love basketball. I'd rather spend my time on the court, but I had a terrible knee injury, so I can't play as much as I would like. And I love to read, and I love journaling. I just love writing down, what's going on in my brain often. So those. Yeah,
I agree. There's only so much headspace you've got, right? So you need to get it out there on paper.
And my brain runs faster than the usual brain. I think I'm a sanguine, so I have ideas like this. My brain's. I'm always thinking up stuff. So if I don't put it down, that went, because something new is gonna come up.
It fills up quickly. That. Last question for me, and it's a reflective one. So if you were to go back, let's say maybe when you were leaving university or as a younger person before you started your career, mm-hmm. If you could go back and give yourself some advice at that point, what would you go back and tell yourself?
You should have stayed in a business development class early.
Stay in school.
Money earlier. That for me is something I think I should have done. But I got with the program, and I'm okay with my journey. Very few people are okay with their journey. So I'm very grateful that I've had all the experiences that I've had. I've made the mistakes that I've made because they've, I love to reflect, and they've made me who I am today. So if I look back genuinely, I'd say just keep going. Always remind yourself that you're worthy, and whatever happens, just stay focused.
Yeah, no, I love that. Always take the learnings out of every situation. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. As humans, rather, we're very judgmental, and judgment comes so much from what people do that is wrong. But I sat down and I looked and I really thought, and I said, who doesn't do wrong things? We spend so much time thinking about the wrong rather than the lessons, and it's not that you should go out there thinking about how to do the wrong, but, even as human beings, we spend so much time saying, so 3 years ago, she did this, but that doesn't make you who you are today if you learn from it, unless continuously doing that, but if you learn from it, that doesn't make you who you are. So we spend so much time looking at what people did wrong rather than what did they learn from that, and how did it make them better, and what lessons can they impact on other people from the wrong things that, they did. And really, that's the way I look at life. So look at the best in people, look at what they're bringing on the table, and try not to be judgmental, and really just live a positive life and, have a positive influence on the people around you.
I absolutely love that. Cynthia, thank you so much for fitting us in. I know you're super busy, and thanks for your time. It's really enjoyed talking to you today.
James, thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you for listening to this week's show. You can subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can write to us at dryphase.podcast@coordinate.cloud, tweet us at coordinatesport, or follow us on Instagram at coordinate_sports, or on my account at James_ventures. This episode was produced by Nancy Kwamboka, with support from Claire Goodchild and Lola Small, with special thanks to Rochelle. I'm James Moore, and you've been listening to The Drive Phase from Coordinate Sports.